In the movie's opening scene, Sister Mary is shown surreptitiously entering a superior's chamber at night and taking a ring of keys. Then she makes an attempt to break out of the Roman Catholic convent through the locked gates. She is startled to see four hooded individuals pursuing her, though, and as she escapes through the gate, one of them grabs her leg and breaks it. When Sister Mary eventually comes to, she discovers that she is imprisoned within a coffin. She cries out for assistance, but while she is buried alive, her cries are ignored. The next scene shows Sister Cecilia pulling up at the convent, where the Mother Superior greets her with much affection and says they have been waiting for her. Then, Mother Superior gives Sister Isabel the order to go with Cecilia to her room. Cecilia is told by Isabel that the convent was built in 1632 on top of the absolutely off-limits St. Stephen's catacomb. When they get to her room, Isabel tells them that their labor is emotionally and physically taxing. She assures Cecilia that she can still go and ask God for forgiveness if she chooses not to take her vows that evening. Cecilia, on the other hand, believes that God has sufficiently prepared her for this occasion. That night, Cecilia becomes a nun and dons a rosary as she swears to follow the evangelical teachings. We watch Cecilia and Tedeschi chatting following the ceremony. She confides in him, telling him how, at the age of 12, she almost drowned in a frozen lake and was pronounced dead for a whole 7 minutes. She feels that God preserved her for a reason. Later, Cecilia hears someone crying inside the chapel and goes in. She finds a nun lying on the ground muttering softly as she advances to investigate. Cecilia walks over, worried, asking how she's doing. She is shocked to see that the nun has a scarlet veil covering her face, though. Cecilia is suddenly startled by Mother Superior. Mother Superior explains to Cecilia that Saint Helena brought the Holy Nail relic back from Jerusalem. This news shocks Cecilia, who becomes so emotional that she passes out and collapses. Cecilia goes to confession the following day and blames her previous night's blackout on drinking too much wine. But the cardinal doesn't say anything, only glances at her, and Cecilia watches in fear as he disappears into the shadows. Now before she has a chance to realize what is going on, she is drawn into a poorly lit hallway where she is confronted by 5 cloaked individuals. She is then startled out of her slumber by one of the figures stabbing her. Then she hears heavy breathing, and as she switches on the light, the figure vanishes, but her dread is heightened when she sees an elderly woman standing in one of her room's corners. The following night, when Cecilia is resting, she hears breathing once more. Suddenly, the elderly nun informs Cecilia that they all adore her while taking a scissor to her hair. When Cecilia returns the nun to her bed with care, she discovers crosses-shaped wounds on the soles of the nun's feet as she gets ready to depart. The following day, Cecilia confides in fellow nun Gwen about her unsettling experience from the night before, but Gwen doesn't listen. Instead, Cecilia talks about her own experience attending a support group where she met nuns and was drawn to their way of life, which ultimately led her to decide to enter the convent. Cecilia suddenly feels queasy, throws up, and tells Gwen she's not feeling well. Later, Cecilia sees a red-veiled nun wandering around outdoors. Suddenly, a crow flies into a window, and Mother Superior invites Cecilia to accompany her. The Cardinal, Tedeschi, and Dr. Callow are waiting for her when she is led to a room. When they invite her to take a seat, the Cardinal, who is clearly irate, asks her whether she was in a sexual connection with a man before entering the convent. Cecilia asks what is going on and insists she has not broken her vows, denying any wrongdoing. Then, it becomes clear that Cecilia is expecting. The Cardinal proclaims that they have been blessed with a miracle and that this kid was conceived without sin. Tedeschi answers Cecilia's query about why God singled her out for this blessing by saying that this is precisely the reason God kept her alive. The nuns at the convent start to regard Cecilia as the next Virgin Mary, but it's clear that Gwen, Cecilia's friend, and Isabella, another nun, are not too happy about this. Cecilia discovers while throwing up that one of her teeth has fallen out as her second trimester gets underway. Later, jealous of Cecilia, Sister Isabel tries to drown her while she's bathing, saying that it was supposed to her, but as other nuns show up, her methods backfire, and Isabel adamantly vows that they must try again with her as they pull her away. After checking on Cecilia, Dr. Callow tells Tedeschi that the infant seems to be doing well. Cecilia, on the other hand, conveys her anguish and brings up Isabel's menacing admission that it was meant to be her. Cecilia is then informed by Tedeschi that Isabel is mentally ill and that something in her has probably been triggered by seeing Cecilia and the miracle. Tedeschi tells Cecilia that she is fine, despite her insistence on seeing a different physician and visiting a hospital. He goes on to say that they can't take the chance of the miracle becoming well known. Thus, until the Savior is born, it is safest for her to stay at the convent. Subsequently, Cecilia sees two red-veiled nuns watching her closely via a window. A nun abruptly leaps from the convent's roof as she continues forward. Startled, Cecilia dashes to the scene and learns that Isabel has taken her own life. Subsequently, Gwen expresses her mistrust towards the nuns and tells Cecilia that they don't even know what's inside of her. Tedeschi steps in at that point, asking if anything is wrong, but Gwen, uneasy, accuses the convent leaders in public of being careless. But Tedeschi and Deacon Enzo quickly intercept and remove her. Cecilia is startled when a portrait of the Virgin Mary falls into her room in the middle of the night. She is then taken aback to find the scriptural reference to Corinthians 11:14 written on the wall, a hidden warning that makes her realize that something is wrong with this convent. In an attempt to obtain more information, she slips into the cardinal's office and looks through her file. To her surprise, she finds facts concerning the childhood accident. She hears a woman crying at that precise moment. Upon going outside to look into it, she peers into an adjacent room where the sounds are coming from. To her horror, she sees a cloaked figure severing Gwen's tongue. When the older nun shows there, she silences Cecilia and gives her something. And the nun cryptically replies that she will never leave the convent when Cecilia requests for her assistance in leaving. When the superior hears Cecilia screaming the next day, he rushes to her room. Tedeschi takes Cecilia to the hospital after realizing how serious the issue is after discovering her is covered in blood. Mother Superior discovers a chicken feather beneath Cecilia's bed in the meantime. She looks beneath the bed out of curiosity and, to her surprise, finds a dead chicken hidden inside something that is wrapped in fabric. She tells Tedeschi right away that Cecilia is fabricating the miscarriage over the phone. She is bound to a chair when they return her to the convent. Prior to becoming a priest, Tedeschi worked as a geneticist. He then discloses that he impregnated nuns using DNA samples from the Holy Nail relic in an attempt to usher in a new Messiah. He acknowledges that before they succeeded with Cecilia, they had to go through 20 years of trial and error, which frequently produced fetuses that were deformed. After that, Tedeschi takes her to a room where, with Enzo's assistance, he brands across a symbol that is also seen on many of the other nuns into Cecilia's foot. After Cecilia approaches the cardinal in the third trimester, she asks him how long he has been pursuing her and what will happen after their plan is finished. Cecilia is saying that this is not the work of God as one of her nails comes loose during their talk and she had to take it off completely. The cardinal challenges her in return, with a question: if this is not God's will, then why does God not step in to stop them? A few days later, Mother Superior is by herself in Cecilia's chamber, and she hits her on the head with a crucifix, sending Cecilia to the floor. Then, in a fit of wrath, Cecilia rises from her bed and uses the crucifix to mercilessly beat Mother Superior to death. However, as Cecilia makes an attempt to flee, her water breaks. She then goes up to Cardinal and uses her rosary to strangle him. Even though Cardinal tries to escape, she is able to murder him. After observing the act, Dr. Calla leaves the area. Cecilia then goes to Tedeschi's laboratory and pours ethanol all over it. But Tedeschi shows up and approaches her, only to stop when he notices the lighter she is holding. He contends that since they would just find someone else, her death won't resolve anything. Cecilia feels a searing ache all of a sudden, and she punches Tedeschi in the head just as he tries to take the lighter from her, giving her the chance to lock him inside. In the battle, he gets to grip her hair, but Cecilia resists and uses the lighter to successfully light the ethanol. Cecilia runs into the convent's underground catacombs after Tedeschi puts out the flames and exits the laboratory. Just as she thinks he's dead, Tedeschi pursues Cecilia further, and as she runs from him, she becomes frightened upon finding Gwen's disfigured body next to her. Cecilia finds a way out, but Tedeschi catches her and brings her back before she can get away. When Tedeschi tries to use a knife to sever Cecilia's stomach, she stabs him in the throat with the Holy Nail relic that she had earlier taken from the chapel. When Cecilia eventually emerges from the catacombs, she gives birth and falls to her knees. She bites through the umbilical cord herself, horrified to see her infant gasping for air and making gurgling and growling noises. The film finishes here when Cecilia stumbles away and uses a nearby rock to take the creature's life. To ensure you never miss any updates on new videos, kindly click the bell icon and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.